The rumble of the Harley-Davidson tears through the silence of downtown Los Angeles at 11:47 p.m. Its chrome pipes gleaming under the flickering streetlight as Dalton Briggs cuts the engine. The sudden quiet feels heavier than the noise, a thick, oppressive blanket settling over the narrow alley between 7th and Spring Street. Sage Whitmore's eyes snap open inside her torn sleeping bag, every nerve in her body instantly alert, despite the exhaustion that weighs down her limbs. The headlight beam cuts through the darkness like a blade, illuminating the makeshift cardboard shelter she's called home for the past 18 months. Heavy boots hit the pavement with deliberate force, each step calculated to announce dominance. Dalton's massive frame blocks out the streetlight as he approaches. His leather vest bearing the Iron Wolves insignia catches what little light remains. If you believe in karma and justice, please subscribe to this channel. Today's story about a brave woman will make you believe that justice always comes at the right time. Like this video if you support the underdog standing up against bullies. The alley stretches between two abandoned buildings in downtown's forgotten district, a place where the city pretends not to see its most vulnerable citizens. Sage has chosen this spot carefully over months of observation, far enough from the main homeless camps to avoid trouble, close enough to Pastor Emmett Cross's shelter for emergency supplies. Her few possessions lie arranged with military precision: a water bottle, a small first aid kit hidden inside a torn backpack, and a faded photograph tucked deep in her jacket pocket. Dalton Briggs stands 6 feet 4 inches tall, his bulk enhanced by years of prison weightlifting and street fighting. The skull tattoo on his neck seems to pulse in the dim light, matching the rhythm of his heavy breathing as he surveys what he considers his new territory. At 42, he's built the Iron Wolves from a small crew into a force that controls drug distribution across 3 districts, his reputation for violence preceding him like a dark herald. "Get up." His voice cuts through the night like gravel scraping concrete, the command carrying the weight of implied consequences. "This block belongs to the Wolves now. You've got 30 seconds to grab your trash and disappear." Sage doesn't move immediately. Her breathing remains steady despite the adrenaline flooding her system. Through barely opened eyes, she assesses the threat with practiced efficiency, noting his stance favoring his left leg, the telltale bulge of a concealed weapon at his hip, the knife handle protruding from his boot. Her fingers remain relaxed, resisting the muscle memory that wants to shift into combat readiness. "I said, move!" Dalton's boot connects with her makeshift shelter, sending the cardboard flying and exposing her fully to the cold night air. The water bottle rolls across the pavement, its contents spilling into the gutter. Deaf and homeless? What a worthless combination. Still, Sage remains motionless, her body language projecting vulnerability, while her mind calculates distances and angles. The dog tags hidden beneath 3 layers of clothing press cold against her chest, a reminder of who she used to be before the nightmares and the failed treatments and the slow descent into this carefully constructed invisibility. Detective Marlo Pierce watches from her unmarked sedan parked 70 feet away, her dashboard camera recording everything while she speaks quietly into her radio. Unit 77 requesting backup at 7th and Spring. Potential assault in progress. Suspect is Dalton Briggs, president of Iron Wolves MC. Her fingers grip the steering wheel, every instinct screaming at her to intervene, but protocol demands she wait for backup when dealing with known gang leaders. Dalton's patience evaporates like morning dew under a desert sun. His massive hand reaches down and grabs Sage's sleeping bag, yanking it away with enough force to roll her onto the cold concrete. The movement is meant to humiliate, to establish dominance over what he sees as human refuse, cluttering his new territory. You know what your problem is? He kicks her backpack, sending its meager contents scattering across the alley. You people think you can just exist wherever you want, stinking up the place, making the neighborhood look like garbage. The first aid supplies spill out, bandages and antiseptic bottles rolling toward the drain. Sage slowly pushes herself to a sitting position, her movements deliberately sluggish, non-threatening. Her eyes meet his for the first time, and something in that gaze makes Dalton pause for a fraction of a second. There's no fear there, no pleading or desperation that he's accustomed to seeing. Instead, there's a stillness that reminds him uncomfortably of the moment before a storm breaks. "I have nowhere else to go," she says, her voice rough from disuse, but carrying an undertone of steel. "This spot hurts no one." Dalton laughs, the sound echoing off the brick walls like breaking glass. "You think I care about your sob story? Every worthless junkie has an excuse." He pulls the knife from his boot, the blade catching the light as he waves it casually. "But I'm feeling generous tonight. Leave now, walking, or leave in an ambulance. Your choice." The knife changes everything, transforming a simple eviction into assault with a deadly weapon. Detective Pierce reaches for her door handle. Backup or no backup, she can't watch someone get stabbed. But before she can exit the vehicle, the entire dynamic of the confrontation shifts in a heartbeat. Sage moves with the fluid precision of someone who's rehearsed this moment 1,000 times in dreams and nightmares. Her body remembering what her conscious mind has tried to forget. The seemingly broken woman transforms, rising from the ground in one smooth motion that speaks of years of combat training. Her left hand deflects Dalton's knife arm, while her right delivers a precise strike to his solar plexus. The impact calculated to disable without permanent damage. Dalton staggers backward, his diaphragm spasming as he struggles to draw breath. The knife clatters across the pavement, but rage overrides his shock as he charges forward with a roar. His massive frame should give him every advantage. 240 pounds of muscle against a malnourished woman who weighs maybe 120 soaking wet. But Sage Whitmore isn't just any woman, and malnutrition hasn't erased 14 years of muscle memory. She sidesteps his charge with minimal effort, using his momentum against him in a classic Krav Maga redirect. Her foot sweeps his already weakened left leg, the old injury from a bar fight 3 years ago betraying him at the worst possible moment. Time seems to slow as Dalton falls, his arms windmilling uselessly as gravity claims him. The 800-pound Harley-Davidson, precariously balanced on its kickstand, provides an immovable object for the unstoppable force of his descending body. His shoulder strikes the fuel tank, the impact tilting the massive machine past its center of gravity. The crash reverberates through the alley like thunder. Dalton's scream cutting through the night as the motorcycle pins his right leg to the pavement. The sickening crack of his tibia breaking is audible even over his cursing, the bone splintering under the combined weight of the bike and the awkward angle of impact. "My leg! Get it off! Get it off me!" His commanding presence evaporates, replaced by the primal panic of an animal caught in a trap. His hands scrabble uselessly at the chrome and steel, unable to generate enough leverage from his position to shift the massive weight. Sage stands perfectly still, her breathing controlled as she watches him struggle. There's no satisfaction in her expression, no vindication or pleasure at his suffering. Just the same 1,000-yard stare that's haunted her since Afghanistan, since the day she held pressure on a wounded soldier's femoral artery for 3 hours in a firefight, only to watch him die on the medevac chopper. Detective Pierce is already out of her car and running, her badge held high as she approaches. LAPD, nobody move. She keys her radio with her free hand. This is 7-7. I need an ambulance at my location immediately. Suspect down with probable broken leg. Her eyes take in the scene, the scattered belongings, the knife on the ground, Dalton trapped beneath his own symbol of power. She attacked me! Dalton gasps through gritted teeth, sweat beading on his forehead as shock begins to set in. That crazy woman jumped me! I want her arrested for assault! Pierce kneels beside him, but makes no move to help lift the bike. Not until backup arrives to secure the scene. That's interesting, Mr. Briggs, because my dash cam shows you approaching her with a weapon. She glances at Sage, noting the woman's controlled stance and the way her eyes track every movement in the alley. Ma'am, are you injured? Sage shakes her head slowly, her voice steady when she responds. No, officer. I defended myself when he pulled the knife. She gestures to the blade, its position corroborating her version of events. The sound of approaching sirens fills the air. Multiple units responding to Pierce's call. Within minutes, the alley floods with red and blue lights, uniformed officers establishing a perimeter while paramedics work to extract Dalton from beneath the Harley. It takes 3 officers and a specialized jack to lift the bike, revealing the extent of the damage to his leg. You're under arrest for assault with a deadly weapon, Pierce informs him as the paramedics load him onto a gurney, his leg immobilized in a temporary splint. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. This is bullshit. Dalton's face contorts with rage and pain, his voice carrying despite the morphine the paramedics have administered. You don't know who you're messing with. The wolves own this city. We own you. Pierce ignores his threats, turning instead to Sage. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to come to the station to give a statement. You're not under arrest. You're a victim and a witness. She pauses, studying the woman more carefully. Something about her bearing, the way she holds herself despite the ragged clothes and unwashed hair, triggers a memory. Have we met before? Sage's jaw tightens almost imperceptibly, but she maintains eye contact. I don't think so, Detective. The lie comes easily, necessary for maintaining the cover that's kept her alive for 18 months. Marlowe! Another officer approaches, holding an evidence bag. Found something interesting in the perp's jacket. He holds up a clear plastic bag containing several smaller bags of what appears to be crystal methamphetamine. Looks like Mr. Briggs was making deliveries tonight. Pierce whistles low, the drug charges adding significant weight to Dalton's arrest. Log it all, and run a full sweep of his bike. Check the saddlebags. She turns back to Sage, her expression softening slightly. Look, I know you probably don't trust cops, and I get it. But you were just assaulted by the president of one of the most dangerous gangs in L.A. You need protection. The offer hangs in the air between them, loaded with implications neither woman can fully voice. Sage knows she should disappear, fade back into the shadows before anyone looks too closely at her face or runs her fingerprints. But there's something in Detective Pierce's eyes, a recognition that goes beyond professional interest. Your daughter, Sage says quietly, the words escaping before she can stop them. Kandahar, 2018. The convoy attack. Pierce's entire body goes rigid, her hand instinctively moving toward her service weapon before stopping. How could you possibly? Her voice trails off as the pieces click into place. The memory of a combat medic who'd pulled her daughter from a burning Humvee, who'd kept her alive during the 40-minute wait for the medevac. Sergeant Whitmore. The name hangs between them like a bridge across time, connecting the decorated soldier who'd saved 3 lives that day to the homeless woman standing in a downtown alley. Sage doesn't confirm or deny, but the slight nod of her head is enough. "Jesus Christ," Pierce breathes, her professional composure cracking. "We looked for you after you came back. Melanie wanted to thank you properly, but you'd already been discharged, and the VA wouldn't tell us anything." "Different life," Sage says simply, her eyes scanning the alley as more police arrive. "Detective, I need to go." "No," Pierce's voice carries a new determination. "Not this time. You saved my daughter's life. Now let me help save yours." She pulls out her phone, scrolling through contacts. "There's someone you need to meet. Someone who's been looking for you." Before Sage can protest, Pierce has dialed, the phone ringing twice before a deep voice answers. "Agent Sterling Cade." "Sterling, it's Marlowe Pierce. I found her. I found Sage Whitmore." The silence on the other end stretches for several seconds before Cade responds, his voice tight with urgency. "Is she secure?" "She's with me. But Sterling, there's a problem. She just took down Dalton Briggs." Another pause. Then what sounds like a muttered curse. "The Iron Wolves president? Christ, that's going to accelerate everything. Keep her safe, Marlowe. I'm 15 minutes out." Pierce ends the call, turning back to find Sage has taken several steps backward, her body coiled like a spring ready to bolt. "You don't understand what you've just done," Sage says, her voice carrying a weight of exhaustion that goes beyond physical fatigue. "They'll come for me now. All of them." "Who?" Pierce asks, though she suspects she already knows the answer. "The cartel," Sage whispers, her eyes reflecting the red and blue lights that continue to strobe through the alley. "The Iron Wolves are just the street level. Dalton Briggs is nothing compared to what's coming." The revelation lands like a physical blow, transforming what appeared to be a simple assault case into something far more complex and dangerous. Pierce realizes that the woman before her isn't just a homeless veteran with PTSD, she's a federal witness in hiding, and the confrontation with Dalton has likely blown her cover wide open. The sound of motorcycle engines in the distance makes both women turn, the distinctive rumble of multiple Harleys approaching from different directions. The Iron Wolves have been monitoring police channels, and news of their president's arrest is spreading through their network like wildfire. "We need to move. Now," Pierce says, her hand on her radio. "This is Detective Pierce requesting immediate backup and transport for a protected witness. Multiple hostiles approaching our location." The engines grow louder, and Sage makes a decision that will change everything. She reaches into her jacket, pulling out a small device that's been hidden in the lining for 18 months. With a press of a button, she activates the emergency beacon, sending her location directly to the U.S. Marshals Service. "My name isn't really Sage Whitmore," she says, as they move quickly toward Pierce's vehicle. "It's actually—" "My name isn't really Sage Whitmore," she says, as they move quickly toward Pierce's vehicle. "It's actually Sage Winters. I've been in witness protection for 2 years." The revelation crystallizes everything for Pierce as she yanks open the passenger door, the pieces of an impossible puzzle suddenly forming a complete picture. The motorcycle engines grow closer, splitting into different approaches to box them in. Pierce floors the accelerator just as 3 bikes roar into the alley from the north end, their riders wearing Iron Wolves colors. "All units, this is 7-7 in pursuit. I have a federal witness in immediate danger," Pierce shouts into her radio while executing a controlled slide around the corner onto Spring Street. multiple hostiles on motorcycles, requesting air support and full tactical response. The sedan's engine screams as Pierce weaves through late-night traffic, using every trick from her decade of experience. Behind them, more motorcycles join the chase, their numbers growing as Iron Wolves members respond to the emergency call about their president. Sage grips the door handle, her combat instincts calculating escape routes, even as the speedometer pushes past 70 in a 35 zone. Sterling Cade's black SUV intercepts them at 4th and Broadway, the federal agent executing a perfect blocking maneuver that sends two pursuing motorcycles careening into parked cars. "Follow me," his voice crackles through Pierce's radio. "Safe House Protocol 7. The convoy races through downtown, Pierce's sedan sandwiched between two federal vehicles as they head toward the fortified medical facility that serves as both hospital and secure holding area for protected witnesses. The Iron Wolves fall back as LAPD units flood the streets, the massive law enforcement response finally overwhelming their pursuit. Inside the secured wing of the federal medical facility, Sage sits on an examination table while a doctor checks her vitals. Two U.S. Marshals stationed at the door. Agent Cade paces the room, his phone constantly buzzing with updates from various agencies now involved in what has become a multi-jurisdictional incident. 2 years, he says, his frustration evident. 2 years we've kept you hidden, and it all goes to hell because Dalton Briggs decided to play tough guy with the wrong person. "I didn't have a choice," Sage responds, her voice steady despite the exhaustion weighing on her. He pulled a knife. "I'm not blaming you," Cade clarifies quickly. "If anything, this might be the break we've needed. Briggs in custody means leverage, and leverage means deals." He stops pacing, fixing her with an intense stare. "The Valdez cartel trial is in 3 weeks. We need you to testify." The name sends a visible shudder through Sage, memories of what she'd witnessed flooding back. "They said I wouldn't have to, that my written statement would be enough. That was before Dalton Briggs became a co-defendant," Cade explains. "His connection to the cartel changes everything. The prosecution wants to use tonight's incident to establish a pattern of violence and intimidation. Do you think Sage should reveal her true identity? Comment below. I'll reply to the first 100 comments." Detective Pierce enters the room, having finished giving her statement to the federal agents outside. "Dalton's in surgery. Compound fracture of the tibia, possible nerve damage. He won't be walking for months." She pauses, studying Sage with newfound respect. "That was some serious training you displayed back there." "Delta Force Combat Medic Program," Sage says quietly. "They teach us to heal, but also to protect ourselves and our patients when necessary." "Is that how you ended up witnessing the Valdez execution?" Pierce asks, though she immediately recognizes she may have overstepped. Sage's eyes go distant, focusing on something beyond the sterile hospital walls. "I was working at a VA clinic in El Paso, using my medical training to help other veterans. One night, I was driving home late, took a shortcut through an industrial area." Her voice drops to barely above a whisper. "I saw them execute 3 people, members of a rival cartel. They didn't see me at first, but my phone, it rang." The room falls silent, everyone understanding the implications. A witness to a triple cartel execution doesn't usually live to testify. The fact that Sage survived the initial encounter was miraculous enough. "They came after me that night," she continues. "I managed to get to a police station, but I knew they'd never stop hunting me. That's when the marshals stepped in, gave me a new identity, told me to disappear." "And you chose to be homeless?" Pierce asks, genuinely curious. "Hidden in plain sight," Sage explains. "No address to track, no job to monitor. No connections to exploit. Just another invisible person in a city full of them. 3 weeks pass in a blur of preparation and security measures. The trial of the century according to the media, though they don't know half the story. The federal courthouse in downtown Los Angeles becomes a fortress. Concrete barriers and armed guards creating layers of protection against potential cartel retaliation. Sage sits in the witness preparation room, wearing clothes that feel foreign after 2 years of thrift store donations and shelter handouts. The navy blue suit is professional but understated, chosen specifically to project credibility without appearing coached. Bryn Holloway, the public defender assigned to protect Sage's interests, reviews the questions one more time. "Remember, you're not on trial here," Bryn emphasizes, her voice calm and reassuring. "You're a witness to crimes, a survivor who showed incredible courage. The defense will try to paint you as unreliable, a homeless veteran with PTSD who might have imagined things. Don't let them rattle you." In the defendant's box, Dalton Briggs sits in a wheelchair, his legs still immobilized in a cast that runs from hip to ankle. Beside him, 3 members of the Valdez cartel face charges of murder, conspiracy, and racketeering. The connection between the Iron Wolves and the cartel, established through financial records and intercepted communications, has transformed both organizations from regional threats to federal priorities. Judge Cordelia Thorne, a former JAG officer with 30 years of legal experience, calls the court to order with a sharp rap of her gavel. The prosecution may call its next witness. The United States calls Sage Winters, formerly Sergeant Sage Whitmore, to the stand. The walk from the witness room to the stand feels like miles, every eye in the packed courtroom following her movement. Sage keeps her gaze forward, her military bearing returning despite the months of deliberately suppressing it. She places her hand on the Bible, swearing to tell the truth with a voice that carries clearly through the courtroom. Assistant District Attorney James Brennan approaches, his demeanor respectful but focused. "Ms. Winters, can you tell the court about the night of April 15th, 2 years ago?" Sage takes a breath, centering herself before beginning. "I was driving home from the VA clinic where I worked as a trauma counselor. It was approximately 11:30 p.m. when I took a detour through the industrial district due to road construction. And what did you witness?" "I saw 4 men force 3 others to kneel in a warehouse loading dock. The men forcing them down wore Iron Wolves Motorcycle Club insignia." She pauses, making direct eye contact with Dalton. "I recognized one of them as Dalton Briggs." The defense attorney, a high-priced lawyer known for representing cartel members, objects immediately. "Your Honor, the witness couldn't possibly have identified my client from such a distance in the dark. I had stopped my car approximately 40 feet away," Sage continues calmly. "The loading dock was well lit, and I have 20/15 vision. More importantly, I recognized Mr. Briggs because he had threatened me earlier that same day at the VA clinic." This revelation causes a stir in the courtroom. Even Dalton's lawyer seems surprised. He had come to the clinic demanding oxycodone, claimed he was a veteran, but couldn't provide any service documentation. When I refused to help him obtain drugs illegally, he said he'd remember my face. "And did you see what happened next?" Brennan asks, though his tone suggests he wishes he didn't have to. "Yes, the 3 men were executed, single gunshots to the head. The bodies were loaded into a van with Texas plates." She recites the license number from memory, the same number that had led investigators to a vehicle registered to the Valdez cartel. The cross-examination comes swift and harsh, Dalton's attorney attempting to discredit her testimony by highlighting her current circumstances. "Ms. Winters, is it true you've been living on the streets for the past 18 months? "By choice, yes." By choice? You chose to be homeless rather than accept federal protection in a safe house? Traditional protection would have required me to stay in one location, making me an easy target. Living without a fixed address kept me mobile and unpredictable. Or perhaps your PTSD made you paranoid, made you see threats where none existed. Sage's jaw tightens, but her voice remains level. My PTSD is from serving 3 tours in Afghanistan, watching soldiers die while trying to save them. It doesn't affect my ability to recognize faces or remember events. But it does affect your judgment, doesn't it? After all, you attacked my client 3 weeks ago. Objection! Brennan rises sharply. The witness defended herself against an armed assault, as documented by police video evidence. Judge Thorne nods. Sustained. The jury will disregard the characterization of the incident as an attack by the witness. The defense attorney changes tactics. Ms. Winters, what happened after you witnessed these alleged murders? I drove immediately to the nearest police station. Within 2 hours, there were 3 attempts on my life. The Marshals Service intervened and placed me in witness protection. And yet, here you are, very much alive. If the cartel really wanted you dead. They tried, Sage interrupts, her voice carrying a weight that silences the courtroom. 17 documented attempts in the first 6 months. 2 marshal deputies died protecting me. I'm alive because good people sacrificed everything to keep me that way. The revelation shifts the atmosphere in the courtroom, the reality of what Sage has endured becoming tangible. Even some of the jury members look shaken. The image of a homeless veteran taking on a different meaning. Dalton just made a fatal mistake. But the biggest twist hasn't happened yet. The last 10 minutes will change everything you think about this story. Keep watching to understand why. Brennan introduces physical evidence, security footage from multiple angles showing the Iron Wolves at the warehouse that night. Financial records linking payments from the cartel to Dalton's accounts. Phone records placing him at the scene. The mountain of evidence grows with each exhibit, but it's Sage's testimony that provides the human element that makes it real. Ms. Winters, Brennan asks as his questioning nears its end, why did you agree to testify today, knowing the danger it puts you in? Sage is quiet for a long moment, her eyes moving across the courtroom before settling on the jury. Because hiding didn't make me safer. It just made me invisible. These men, she gestures to the defendants, they count on fear to protect them. They believe no one will stand up to them. Her voice strengthens, carrying the authority of someone who has faced death and chosen to live. I spent 18 months pretending to be nobody, but I'm done hiding. My name is Sage Winters. I served my country for 14 years, and I'm here to tell the truth. The silence that follows her statement is profound. Even Judge Thorne seems moved by the simple dignity of her words. When Brennan indicates he has no further questions, the judge calls for a recess. During the break, Agent Cade approaches Sage in the secure witness room. There's something you should know. The FBI has been investigating the Iron Wolves for 6 months. Your testimony today connected dots we didn't even know existed. What do you mean? Dalton Briggs wasn't just muscle for the cartel. He was their primary distribution coordinator for the entire West Coast. The task force has already executed warrants on 17 Iron Wolves properties. We're looking at 47 arrests by end of day. The magnitude of what her testimony has triggered begins to sink in. So it's really over? The opposite, Cade says, but his expression is unexpectedly positive. You've given us the leverage to dismantle their entire network. The Attorney General wants to offer you something, a position with the Marshal Service as a liaison for witness protection. Your experience, both military and personal, makes you uniquely qualified to help others in similar situations. The offer is unexpected, a chance to transform her trauma into purpose. Before she can respond, Bryn Holloway enters with a smile. The defense just rested without calling Dalton to testify. His lawyer knows it's over. The jury deliberates for less than 3 hours, returning with guilty verdicts on all counts. Dalton Briggs receives 15 years federal time. No possibility of parole for the first 10. The Valdez cartel members receive life sentences. As the verdicts are read, Sage feels something she hasn't experienced in 2 years. The possibility of a future not defined by fear. Judge Thorne's final words carry through the courtroom with the weight of justice served. Mr. Briggs, you thought your violence and intimidation made you powerful. But true power comes from courage, the kind displayed by witnesses who risk everything to speak truth. You crushed yourself under the weight of your own cruelty. Outside the courthouse, reporters surge forward, but Sage is quickly escorted to a waiting federal vehicle. Detective Pierce manages to reach her before she enters, pulling her into a quick embrace. "My daughter wants to meet you properly," she says. "When you're ready." "I'd like that," Sage responds, meaning it. 6 months later, Sage Winters stands before a classroom of new federal witnesses, her role as a witness protection liaison having given her renewed purpose. The woman who once hid in the shadows now helps others navigate their own journey from fear to freedom. "You are not alone," she tells them, the same words someone should have told her 2 years ago. "You are not invisible unless you choose to be. And choosing to stand up, to speak truth, that's not weakness. That's the ultimate strength." In federal prison, Dalton Briggs struggles with physical therapy, his leg never quite healing properly from that night in the alley. The man who once ruled through intimidation now limps through the exercise yard. Avoided by other inmates who know his story, the tough guy brought down by a homeless woman he tried to bully. The Harley-Davidson that had been his symbol of power was sold at federal auction, the proceeds going to victims of Iron Wolf's crimes. The gang itself scattered, its members either imprisoned or in hiding, their empire collapsed by the testimony of one woman who refused to remain invisible. Sage's apartment in Virginia overlooks the Potomac, a far cry from the Los Angeles alley where she once sought shelter. But she keeps one reminder of those 18 months. The worn backpack that held her few possessions, now displayed in her office as a reminder that strength sometimes comes disguised as vulnerability. On her desk, a letter from Pastor Emmett Cross brings unexpected news. The alley where everything changed has been transformed into a small memorial garden, a place of shelter and safety for those who have nowhere else to go. The plaque at its entrance reads simply, "Courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it." As night falls over the city, Sage Winters closes her office and heads home. No longer looking over her shoulder, no longer hiding in plain sight. The woman who was once crushed by circumstances has risen, and in rising has lifted others from their own darkness. The story that began with a biker targeting a homeless girl ends with justice served and lives transformed. Proof that sometimes the most vulnerable among us possess the greatest strength, waiting for the moment when standing up becomes the only option left. 3 years have passed since that night in the alley, and Sage Winters has become something of a legend within the witness protection community. Her office at the Federal Building in Arlington receives a peculiar package on a Thursday morning. No return address, just her name written in careful script. Inside, she finds a Purple Heart medal. Her own, the one she thought lost forever when she fled into hiding. The note attached is brief but powerful. Found this among confiscated property from an Iron Wolves storage unit. Thought you should have it back. Some things shouldn't stay hidden. Detective M. Pierce. Sage holds the medal, its weight both physical and emotional. The journey from decorated soldier to homeless woman to federal liaison seems impossible when compressed into this single object. Yet here she stands, proof that survival takes many forms. Her phone rings, a new case requiring her attention. A young woman named Harper Reeves, a bank teller who witnessed a murder committed by corrupt police officers, needs extraction and placement. The fear in Harper's voice through the secured line echoes Sage's own terror from years ago. That raw desperation when you realize your life has become collateral damage in someone else's war. "I'm scared they'll find me," Harper whispers, the sound of traffic suggesting she's calling from a payphone. "They have resources I can't fight." "Listen to me," Sage says, her voice carrying the authority of lived experience. "Fear is natural. It keeps you alert. But don't let it paralyze you. I'm sending a team to your location right now, and Harper, I'll be with them personally." This isn't standard protocol. Liaisons typically work from offices, coordinating from a distance. But Sage learned long ago that sometimes presence matters more than procedure. That seeing someone who survived similar circumstances can be the difference between giving up and pushing forward. The extraction goes smoothly. Sage's military training evident in how she positions herself, constantly scanning for threats while maintaining a calm demeanor that helps Harper stay focused. During the drive to the safe house, Sage shares selective parts of her own story, enough to establish connection without compromising operational security. "You were really homeless for all that time?" Harper asks, disbelief evident in her tone. 18 months, Sage confirms. "It wasn't living, it was existing. But sometimes that's enough. Sometimes surviving each day is its own form of resistance." Later that evening, after Harper is settled with her new identity documents and temporary housing, Sage returns to her apartment to find an unexpected visitor. Vaughn Hadley, the former Iron Wolves lieutenant who had turned state's evidence, stands in her building's lobby. His appearance drastically changed from his biker days. "I know I shouldn't be here," he begins, his hands raised to show he means no threat. "But I needed to tell you something in person." Security is already moving to intervene, but Sage waves them off. 5 minutes, she says, though her hand rests near her concealed carry permit. "Dalton died in prison last week," Vaughn says quietly. "Heart attack during a fight in the yard. But before he died, he said something. Said you were the only person who ever stood up to him without backing down. Said it haunted him." The news brings no satisfaction, only a strange emptiness. "Why tell me this?" "Because I wanted you to know that what you did mattered beyond the courtroom. 43 guys from the Wolves have gone straight since the trial. Got jobs, left the life. Your testimony didn't just convict us. It freed us from something we couldn't escape on our own." After Vaughn leaves, Sage stands on her balcony, watching the Potomac reflect the setting sun. Tomorrow brings new challenges, more witnesses to protect, more testimonies to facilitate, more lives to help rebuild. But tonight, she allows herself this moment of quiet reflection, understanding finally that strength isn't about never falling, but about choosing to rise each time you do. Her phone buzzes with a text from Detective Pierce, a photo of her daughter Melanie in marine dress blues, graduating from basic training. She says you inspired her to serve, the message reads. Says if a homeless woman can take down a biker gang and rebuild her life, she can handle anything the Corps throws at her. Sage smiles. The first genuine smile in years. Sometimes the ripples we create reach shores we never imagined.